In Halifax today, earning a six-figure income doesn't necessarily guarantee you a home, and that should terrify anybody who's trying to break into the housing market. This is mainly due to the fact that over the last 5 years, average home prices have skyrocketed while wages have barely been keeping up and moving very slowly at a snail's pace. If this trend continues, we could see even high-income earners priced completely out of the market in Halifax. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through what you can afford if you're making about $100,000 a year and what types of homes you can buy in around the HRM. And if you stick around until the end, I'll give you some tips of how to better position yourself for success if you're trying to break into the housing market for the first time in Halifax. Now, just before I get into it, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Stevens. I've been a realtor for over 10 years. And if you want to be educated on the Halifax real estate market, then you're in the right place. So hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And if you're thinking about buying a home in Halifax and you'd like to get in touch with me to talk to me and to get some advice and to help you through that process, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below. Starting off with housing prices. Just 5 years ago in March of 2020, the average home price in Halifax was sitting at about $355,000. Fast forward to March of 2025, 5 years later, and we're sitting at about $612,000 as an average home price. So if you do the math, that's about a 75% increase in just a 5-year period in Halifax. Yes, this growth is unprecedented. Now, for context of just how crazy that type of a price growth is over a 5-year period, if I look back at all the stats in HRM from 1980 until now, so 45 years, the average home price growth year over year works out to 5.7%. And that's including the last 5 years with all those crazy price growths when we saw 3 years back to back of 16%, 25%, and then another 16%. So, that 5.7 number until the last few years was actually a little bit closer to 5%. But that's the number, 5.7% year over year for 45 years as an average. Now, even if we saw a bit of a market correction, these new prices are what I would consider to be the new normal. Even if we saw a 10% drop, we're still very high in price points compared to what we were 5 years ago. So either way, what we're facing right now, even if we saw a small market correction, which would be the first time since 1995 that prices have gone down year over year in HRM, we're still sitting at a very big number for Halifax based on the current wages in the city. Now, speaking of wages, these have not nearly kept up with the increase in housing prices. So it's difficult to nail this one down exactly, as a lot of different sources are giving some different numbers, but the typical wage growth that we've seen in Halifax over that 5-year period is somewhere in about the 10 to 15% realm from an average household income perspective. So again, in comparing that to, the housing prices that have increased by 75%, the wages, simply put, have not kept up to the rise in the cost of living, especially on the home side of things. Now, because of what we've seen over the last 5 years in Halifax in terms of the average home prices rising versus the wages not keeping up, that means that the level of affordability, that affordability gap, is getting wider and wider and wider. So if you look at the graph on the screen now in front of you, you're going to see two columns. The yellow is the average affordability based on the salaries and the interest rates at that given time during that year. The blue column is the average sale prices in the HRM. So if we look at 2020, 2021, the average affordability was actually higher than the average purchase prices in the HRM. And then in 2022, that all changed. And all of a sudden, the average home price is higher than the average affordability. And you can see that gap widening in 2023 as the interest rates started to increase and the price points were increasing as well. And then it closes a little bit in 2024. And then in 2025, this is a projection of what we're seeing so far this year. So overall, you can see that gap of affordability is pretty wide now compared to what it was just 5 years ago. And again, this is to do with the average home prices going up at a rate that is far exceeding the rate of the salary increases here in Halifax and in Nova Scotia. So the question is, if you're looking to buy a home in HRM right now and you're making about $100,000 a year with minimal debt, what is that looking like in terms of what type of home that you can buy? So I'm going to give you 4 different scenarios here just for context, and I'm also using kind of everything that I'm looking at today. So today's rates and today's sale prices that we're seeing, and I'm filming this video at the end of April 2025, just for context. So what we're looking at, the first situation here is a 5% down payment and a 25-year amortization. So in this example, this buyer making $100,000 a year could afford a mortgage of about $440,000, and the payment for this would be about $2,320 per month. So in this example, some of the homes that you could be looking at would be something like a semi or a smaller home in the suburbs, maybe something in Sackville, Eastern Passage, Cole Harbor, some markets like this. So a semi or a smaller home, maybe a bungalow or like a 1.5 story, or you could be looking at a 1 to 2 bedroom condo in places like Clayton Park, Fairview, Dartmouth, or maybe even creeping onto the Halifax Peninsula for like a small 1 bedroom in maybe an older building. But you have to be careful because the condo fees are also going to affect your ratios when the mortgage broker is running your numbers. Now, something you could do if you were a first-time home buyer with 5% down is you could extend your amortization to 30 years instead of 25. So this is going to increase your level of affordability to about $470,000, and then your monthly mortgage payment will be sitting right around $2,100. So it's saving you a little more than $200 a month, but again, it is extending out that amortization, so it may or may not be the right fit for you, but it really depends, because if this is something that you're looking to do, it could be a way to increase that purchasing power, especially if you're right on the cusp of being able to afford a home or not. So based on this example, it does open it up a little bit more. So the types of homes that you could be looking at would be, maybe you could squeeze into a similar home that I already discussed, but with a little bit of a nicer finish level. So maybe a renovated kitchen, renovated bathroom, some things like this. It also opens it up to potentially a detached home, but it would likely need more work than a semi-detached. So you're looking at, either a really, really nice semi-detached home that's fully renovated, or maybe you're looking at a detached home that needs a little bit more work, but maybe that's something that you prefer over a semi-detached home. Not to mention, you could fall into a nicer condo, maybe like a really, really nice 1-bedroom unit, or maybe a larger 2-bedroom unit, or like a 2-bedroom unit in a better location. So as we increase the price points, we're looking at, we could probably get closer to the downtown core, probably get into some nicer neighborhoods, or get a home that's a little bit better finish level in terms of the renovations that have been done over the years. Next up, we're looking at a 20% down payment, so it would not be a default insured mortgage. And then we're looking at a mortgage payment of about $2,180 per month, and this would be a 25-year amortization. This would have you in a mortgage of about $500,000. So again, just like the last section, it's just opening it up a little bit more. Maybe you could get a larger semi or a larger detached home, even better locations, maybe closer to downtown or in that family neighborhood you've wanted to get into. There is a big difference between $500,000 versus $440,000 or $470,000, like in the first example. But the reality is this comes with a 20% down payment. So you have to be very diligent to save up something like a 20% down payment on a $500,000 home, especially with the overall cost of living that we're seeing in Halifax right now. Now, the last example is also 20% down, but this is increasing the amortization to 30 years. So again, by increasing that amortization, you're going to save a little bit on your payment, and this is going to allow you to have a home purchase price of somewhere in around the $535,000 range. So it just opens it up a little bit further. Again, a little bit nicer homes, bringing it, a little tighter knit into the city. In this price range, you could probably get a condo right on the peninsula in terms of, a really killer dynamite location, maybe a newer building with some more amenities, or you're looking at homes that are much more renovated that wouldn't take all the work and sweat equity that you'd be putting into something at, let's say, the $440,000, for example. So generally speaking, what this means, the more money you have to put down, or the more you push that amortization out, the more you're going to qualify for. And because of this, it's going to allow you to get in better neighborhoods, a little bit bigger homes, nicer homes, maybe a better location for you, all these things. But again, that really depends on your own situation. And these should all be discussed with a mortgage broker before you make any decisions in terms of the type of home that you're going to buy, so that you fully understand the ramifications of everything that you're doing. Now, as promised, I wanted to give you some things that you could do to better position yourself to get into a very, very difficult housing market here in Halifax. And unfortunately, there's no secret. You're not going to gain any big secrets by watching this video in terms of this section, because the truth is these require sacrifices, or they require hard work and a lot of discipline to better position yourself. But if your ultimate goal is home ownership a few years down the road, here's some things you could do to really help you qualify for more and to set yourself up to get into a home that will suit you and your family's needs. So So first up, increase your down payment amount. So obviously this would be, saving more money. This is obviously difficult right now based on the overall landscape of the cost of living in Halifax. But if you sacrifice your living situation now, then it might help you qualify for more home in the future. Now with that comes paying off all your debt. So debt will kill you in terms of your monthly ratios with the bank. So when the bank is looking at your overall financial situation, they're looking at lots of things like your credit score, your debts versus what your income is. And they look at ratios in terms of how they're going to do your risk assessment, in terms of how they're going to approve you for the mortgage that you're looking to get. So by paying off your debts and being really disciplined and not carry a lot of credit card debt or line of credit debt or maybe student debt for years and years, those things are really going to help you qualify for more, and they're going to paint a better picture for you when you start looking for your first home or maybe upgrading into your second home as well. You could also explore some first-time home buyer programs if you're looking to buy your first home. There's all kinds of them with Nova Scotia and with the feds as well. Some of them will even help you come up with a down payment. It's called the Nova Scotia Down Payment Assistance Program. There's a ton of info to go over in this, so I'm going to link it down below in the description of this video. This is something you could talk about with your mortgage broker if you're somebody who qualifies in terms of your credit and your income and all that, but maybe you're just paying, extreme amounts of money to live in Halifax right now with the cost of rent and the overall high cost of living. So if you're struggling to save that down payment, then you could look at a program like that, which would foot the down payment for you. And yes, there's a lot of details to go over there, but it could be the right fit for you if it's the difference of getting into a home in the next couple of years versus maybe 8 years down the road if it would take you forever to save that extra down payment for a property purchase. And last but not least, consider different neighborhoods. Location is a huge factor in terms of the way that we price homes in Halifax. And overall, if you're willing to go a little bit farther out, you can get a little bit more home for your money. So this is something that I talk to a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of young couples, things like that. It's really something to consider. Do you want to be in a prime location with a home that needs more work or maybe is not as big as you'd like and all these things? Or would you rather go a little bit further out, take that drive on and that commute on to your daily work, and then you're going to get a nicer home the further you go out? So for example, there's a big difference in a $500,000 home in Eastern Passage compared to in the north end of Halifax. That's obviously a bit of an extreme example, but you see my point here. If you're willing to bend a little bit on location, you're likely to get a better home for you and your family. But for some people, location matters more than how nice the kitchen is or the bathrooms are. So these are all things to discuss with your agent when you're working with them. And it's good to have transparent, open conversations to see what is the right fit for you and your family based on your budget that you're currently working with. So while the Halifax housing market is difficult, these things can help to better position you in a spot where you can purchase a home quicker or maybe get more home than you initially thought that you could. It's key to work with the right people in terms of an agent, a mortgage broker, lawyers, inspectors, the whole 9 yards. But if you're watching this video still, I'm curious to hear from you. Are you surprised at what your money will get you in Halifax right now? Or did this line up with your expectations of what reality is? I'm really curious to hear, so drop something in the comments below. And again, if you're thinking about making a move in Halifax and you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach out to me anytime in the Calendly link below in the description at a time when it's convenient for you. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support and have a great day.